When Einstein died in 1955, a pathologist named Thomas Harvey stole his eyes and brain so he could study it himself. Today, we will be racking Einstein's brain for some of his most intellectual quotes. Fortunately, we don't have to steal it to find his true wisdom. Albert Einstein said, "Any fool can know. The point is to understand. If you truly understand what this means, you'll want to keep watching. And if you don't understand, then you should definitely keep watching." Stay till the end to find out what the most relevant Albert Einstein quote is for our current generation. So, do you think you have the ability to fully understand these quotes? Or will you just be the fool that knows? Quote number 20. Life is like riding a bicycle. To keep your balance, you must keep moving. Think of a river that keeps moving. Water that flows can sustain life, provide nourishment, and eventually feed the ocean. Once that water stops moving, it becomes stagnant and undrinkable. The same can be said for your own life. If you keep moving forward, your momentum will carry you through every uphill, over every obstacle, and one step closer to your goals. Be like the snowball rolling down the hill. Keep rolling and growing bigger until you are an unstoppable force of nature. Quote number 19. We cannot solve our problems with the same thinking we used when we created them. Imagine you were trying to untie a knot that you created. If you keep doing the same thing over and over, you're just going to create more knots. The only way to solve the problem is to adapt and change your approach. This takes effort and a bit of outside-of-the-box thinking, but nothing worth having comes without effort. Quote number 18. If you can't explain it simply, you don't understand it well enough. There's a common misconception that the more you speak, the more you know. This couldn't be further from the truth. The expression, empty vessels make the most noise, comes to mind. Truth be told, the better your understanding is, the easier it should be for you to explain the topic. In a world of short attention spans, learning to present information in the simplest way possible is essential. Quote number 17. Reality is merely an illusion, albeit a very persistent one. If a tree falls in a forest and nobody is around to hear it, does it make a noise? The answer seems obvious, but think about this a little deeper. Sound is a wave of energy vibrating at a specific frequency. If there are no ears to turn that frequency into a perception of sound, did it really occur? This thought experiment might sound illogical, but it helps to remind us that reality is a collection of waves and particles, and our senses create what we see before us. Quote number 16. Everything is energy, and that's all there is to it. Match the frequency of the reality you want, and you cannot help but get that reality. It can be no other way. This is not philosophy, this is physics. This ties into the last quote. If reality is an illusion, you have the power to adjust your frequency and therefore your reality. Obviously, the laws of nature and physics still apply, but give it a try. Start aligning your thoughts, emotions, and actions with the reality you want, and you are guaranteed to create it. Quote number 15. I must be willing to give up what I am in order to become what I will be. This can be difficult for us to truly confront. As you read this, think of the limiting beliefs you have created for yourself. There's not enough time in the day, or this is how I was raised are some common ones. If you want to enact true growth and evolution in your life, you need to be willing to give up aspects of your identity that no longer benefit you. While this sounds difficult, remember that you have no obligation to be the person you were yesterday. Quote number 14. Two things are infinite, the universe and human stupidity, and I'm not sure about the universe. Quotes like this show that Einstein wasn't just a serious man of science, but a joker who understood the humor and irony inherent in life. Even though this statement was meant playfully, it is becoming more and more relevant in our current society. If social media has shown us anything, it's that there is no limit to the stupid things people say and do. And what's even scarier is that they're willing to upload them for the whole world to see. Quote number 13. The measure of intelligence is the ability to change. We seem to think that intelligence or stupidity is something we are born with. This is one of those mindsets that will hold you back from making changes in your life. If you were presented with evidence that proved an old belief wrong, would you change it? Or stick to your guns out of fear of being wrong? There is no shame in admitting you might not know everything and changing your mindset accordingly. Quote number 12. Anger dwells only in the bosom of fools. Anger is a natural emotion that we all feel. The purpose of the quote isn't to say that only fools feel anger, but rather that anger lives in the hearts of foolish people. There are many moments where we can channel anger for a positive outcome. This doesn't mean we should always hold on to it and let it corrupt our lives and relationships. To paraphrase the Buddha, anger is like holding on to a hot coal and wanting to throw it at someone. At the end of the day, you are the one who gets burned. Quote number 11. Science without religion is lame. Religion without science is blind. The world would be different if this quote was widely understood. By itself, science is cold and calculating. It can help us understand the mechanics of the natural world, but without spirituality, it lacks the empathy needed to explain matters of the spirit. On the flip side, religion without the logic of science becomes dogmatic and resistant to change. Science and religion are two sides of the same coin. Quote number 10. Put your hand on a hot stove for a minute and it seems like an hour. Sit with a pretty girl for an hour and it seems like a minute. That's relativity. We've all felt good times rush by in the blink of an eye, while uncomfortable experiences seem to drag on for an eternity. We might measure time with rigid scales like hours and minutes, but this isn't really a true representation of how we experience time. A day for the wise man of 70 years old is much quicker than the day of an inexperienced teen. This helps us to remember that the good moments need to be cherished, otherwise they will be gone before you know it. Quote number 9. Weakness of attitude becomes weakness of character. You don't become a success with negative thoughts constantly swirling around your mind. Those who have achieved great success, whether it's personal, financial, or societal, did it by changing one thing first: their thoughts. What you do consistently becomes who you are. If you consistently have a negative attitude, this is the person you will create. Foster a positive attitude and you will notice your character change too. Quote number 8. The hardest thing in the world to understand is the income tax. Even with all his genius, Einstein could not understand the tax system. Obviously, the quote was meant jokingly, but there is a certain absurdity to the corrupt way in which taxes are handled. Think of how many times $100 gets taxed. There are only two things in life that are certain: death and taxes. Quote number 7. Science is a wonderful thing if one does not have to earn one's living at it. This doesn't just apply to science, but to anything you enjoy doing. Once you start doing it for money, it tends to lose the spark it had when you did it for enjoyment. Be sure to keep your hobbies and business separate, otherwise you will have no escape from your work. Quote number 6. The only source of knowledge is experience. This one applies to many of us. You can't learn everything by yourself, and you can't learn everything from a book. The lessons that really stick with you in life are the ones that come from genuine experiences. So don't hold back. Show yourself to the world and put yourself out there. It's the only way you'll gain true knowledge. Quote number 5. The true sign of intelligence is not knowledge, but imagination. Experience may buy you knowledge, but this is useless without imagination. Imagination allows us to see the world differently. We all have a unique perspective. Knowledge alone won't bring that perspective to light. If you want to be a true genius, focus on imaginative and creative tasks as much as logical ones. Quote number 4. Technological progress is like an axe in the hands of a pathological criminal. If humanity lived by this quote, I don't think we would have the environmental issues we do today. It's important to remember that everything requires balance. While the comparison sounds negative, think of all the killing that has been done in the name of technological progress. Quote number 3. Only those who attempt the absurd can achieve the impossible. This is a quote you should read every morning. We are told our whole lives to be realistic and practical. Don't take risks. The only thing these statements do is put us in a box that we become afraid to leave. Every person who has achieved great things did so by believing it was possible. So, it's time to step out of that comfort zone and achieve success in your life. Quote number 2. Everybody is a genius, but if you judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree, it will live its whole life believing that it is stupid. We don't all fit in the same box. So how do we define what true genius is? The best way is to nurture the unique talents that we all have. There's a unique passion inside of everyone, but if it's never recognized, they won't realize it themselves. So when you start to doubt yourself, Remember that you know what your true genius is, and no one can tell you otherwise. Quote number 1. I know not with what weapons World War III will be fought, but World War IV will be fought with sticks and stones. It's unfortunate that this quote is relevant in today's day and age. That's not to say that World War III is going to start, but most of us have heard people in positions of power throwing around nuclear threats. When the atomic bomb was first created, there were hopes that it would bring about world peace. Hopefully, our leaders will remember that sentiment. Einstein's brain was stolen, but did any knowledge come from the physical gray matter? The true importance of his mind lives on in the discoveries and wisdom he brought into the world. And each and every one of us can still benefit from this. Don't forget, knowledge is nothing without creativity and imagination to guide it.